Dis After Dark Podcast is sponsored by Unofficial.com, the home of Halloween Horror Nights news and rumors all year round. Find us on the web at www.hhnunofficial.com. So stop the fog machines and clear the cobwebs. It's time for another episode of the podcast that's nearly the same as all the others.
Warning. This show contains childish adult content and is intended for immature, mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The views spoken are ours and ours alone, not those of any other bugger. If you're easily offended, we strongly suggest finding another podcast. Everybody neat and pretty, then on with the show.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Dis After Dark. I am Nick, and this week I am joined by Miss Boston White Amanda.
Hi.
And also by the talented Mr. Chris Ripley.
Hello.
How are we doing? Now, there is no Jim Hill this week. Please don't turn off, because we do have a very special guest who's from a different part of the world to Jim Hill. In fact, as the band Men at Work sang back in the 80s, he's from a land down under. Not the Hobbit one, the other one. We have from Australia, Mr. Lewis Sutton.
Hi Nick, Chris, Amanda, how's it going?
I really hoped that Nick was going to sing the song then.
No, not at all.
Yeah, come on, Nick.
I'm not as talented as that. I recently found out that, is it Colin Hay that was the lead singer of Men at Work? He's actually Scottish.
Yeah, I think it wasn't he in Scrubs. I think he was. He was in Scrubs all the time. I'm just watching Scrubs at the moment, so that was what was at the top of my mind.
Zach Braff's a big fan, so kept getting him into episodes of Scrubs.
The secret to Western Australia is everybody is either first, second, or third generation English.
Yeah, we've got if you are here, I think it's legal that you've got to. So it's a law that you've got to move to either Joondalup or Rockingham if you're English. So we like to make sure we know where our English people are.
Us English.
Yeah, and to that point, I was actually born in England. So you're not.
There you go. See, they're all English in Western Australia. Even the accent sounds English.
So Lewis, with that in mind, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what did your parents do to get put on a prison boat?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because boats were what brought us out to Australia, because my dad's a pilot. So we moved from England to Saudi Arabia, and then from Saudi Arabia to WA, because what we basically do here in Perth, in WA, is we like to rip things out of the ground and sell them to other countries. So he was working on iron ore. That's why we came to Australia, was because of the ships, basically. It's a good place. I mean, the convict thing is a bit long gone. It's a far distant history. No, it is. It's fantastic. And Chris mentioned he was just here recently, which is a shame I didn't know that. It would have been good to have met him in person.
I know, right? I love it there. You've got better food, you've got better booze, and you've got better weather. What more can you ask for?
They even have fake Burger Kings.
They do.
Hungry Jacks.
Hungry Jacks.
My knowledge of stuff like that is ridiculous. I apologise.
The downside of living in Australia, and the downside of living in Perth in particular, is we're the most isolated state in the world. So if we want to travel anywhere, it takes a bloody long time. But that's been changed recently because we've just been given the go-ahead for a direct flight to London, which means instead of it taking us, 24 hours to get there kind of thing, now we'll be able to fly straight there for 17 or 18 hours. So it's nice to know that we'll be able to get to you guys quicker.
From my doorstep to where I was staying in Perth, it took me 26 hours. Yes.
Yeah, well, 17 hours is slightly better.
Yeah.
Well,
It'll be a lot better. And to get anywhere, it's like the closest Disney park we've got is Hong Kong, and that's about an 8-hour flight. So at least we've got one reasonably close. So yeah, I'm glad of that.
to be fair though, I mean 8 hours, that's pretty much us getting to Florida, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh,
There or
yeah.
thereabouts.
You've got Paris. It's just around the corner, just a train ride away.
Yeah, but I was trying to make you feel better.
All right.
and yes, I was actually, I found out today, so I made a bit of a faux pas, and I don't mind admitting this publicly. So a few months ago, privately, we were talking, I brought up an idea of us going to Disneyland Paris for the 25th anniversary. I came up with this idea and then didn't do anything with that idea. So it's probably not going to happen now. And today, my wife came up to me and said, "Oh, yeah, because you're going to Disneyland Paris, the podcast, my mum said that she'd treat me and the kids to go to Disneyland Paris for a few days a bit later on in the year." I was like, okay. About that, I'm not actually doing it, I don't think. She's like, oh. But I, of course, said that she should go. I was actually trying to find them cheap deals today. But anyway, that's going off the subject because, as Lewis alluded to, his nearest park is Hong Kong. And although you said that travelling has always been a bit of an issue from where you are in Australia, that hasn't stopped you travelling to not one, but 2 Disney parks fairly recently.
That is very true. Yes. My wife Kat and I have continued our Disney odyssey to see all of the Disney parks. And so at Christmas time, we did the friend thing on Christmas Eve. Then we did the family thing on Christmas Day. And then at 10 o'clock at night, we jumped on a plane. We flew to Shanghai. And we started off the trip at Shanghai Disney, and we spent about a week in Shanghai, a few days in Shanghai proper, and then 4 nights at Shanghai Disneyland. And then we jumped on another plane and went to Hong Kong and spent 4 nights in Hong Kong proper, and then spent a couple of nights in Hong Kong Disneyland. So now we've only got Tokyo to go, and Tokyo is booked in for April. So come April, we will be Disney completists.
That's phenomenal. There's not many Disney completists. I mean, there's a few, but I think even some of the Americans that I know that have recently gone over to Shanghai haven't been to Paris yet. So
yes,
you've done it in a good order, and many would probably argue you probably say the best till last.
That was kind of the plan. We've heard so much good stuff about Tokyo Disney. It just seemed right to leave it to the last one. But it also makes sense because when we went to Hong Kong Disneyland, we had a 2-day ticket, and we were going to be there for 3 days. We wanted to be able to go to the park all 3 days. And when they were checking us in, they said, if you're going to be here for 3 days, you might as well buy an annual pass because it'll work out just as cheap. And so we looked at it, and the best option was a gold annual pass, which had less blockout dates. You could go during the week on the weekend as well as weekdays. And we just went, well, if we get an annual pass, we can come back later in the year. And so we got the annual pass. So this way we're going to go to Tokyo first, and then we're going to go to Hong Kong after that to experience Hong Kong Disneyland in Easter. So it's it's also nice because it breaks up the trip as well, because Tokyo obviously is a further away destination. So by coming back through Hong Kong, we've only got an 8-hour flight on the way home.
Wow, that's amazing. But it's funny because the only other park that I know that's got a really cheap annual pass is Disneyland Paris, which again works out about the same as buying a ticket for 3 days. So it seems to be the sweet spot for going from hopper tickets to an annual pass. But yeah, well, we know how people feel about that and the price of that. So before we get on with the trip, because one thing I do know about Australia as well is that you seem to have a bit of a lack of Disney over there. You don't even have Disney stores, do you?
No, we don't have Disney stores. Yeah, the only thing we get over here is basically Disney movies. It's it's one of those things where they've always talked about doing a park in the Gold Coast, and it comes up every year. So doing a park in the Gold Coast, but it doesn't happen. And then there was Sydney at one point was looking at doing kind of a park housing estate kind of thing, and that never happened. So there's always been rumors of it, but yeah, I just don't know if we've got the population here that would be able to warrant a Disney park. But I thought, because the Asian parks are all in the north, and I thought, and the like in Shanghai, predominantly it's people from China that are going there. In Japan, it's people in Tokyo, it's people predominantly from Japan that are going there. In Hong Kong, you got more of an international feel because it's more of an international city, and you got people flying in and out constantly. But it's more, they're more regional, and it's weird that we haven't got one in the south yet. But I think if they do one in the south, you're going to see it in places like, I reckon Bali is probably the most likely place, because generally speaking, its weather's probably comparable to Orlando, hot and humid. It does rain, but the rain just usually happens and then goes away. And it's got a lot of international guests, as well as almost every Australian goes there as a rite of passage.
Yeah. Every Australian that I met said, "Oh yeah, I've just come back from Bali."
Yeah. Well, it's so close. It's like a 3.5 hour flight away from Perth. So I think if there does happen to be a South Asian park, it's going to be probably in Bali or Indonesia or somewhere around there, because it couldn't be Singapore, because it's just land is way too expensive there. Whereas Bali, they can still buy heaps of land and do it their way. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next decade you'll see a park in South Asia, and I think it'll be Bali.
So with that said, when did your kind of your love of Disney parks first start?
Well, last time I was on the show, you guys asked me about the Asian countries, like why we hadn't been there, and I'll give you the backstory. I was a Disney fan from a long time ago. When I was a kid, I used to go to my grandparents every Sunday. We'd watch it was Wonderful World of Disney, I think was the TV show on every week.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh my God, I want to go there. Seeing the park and that sort of thing, just going, oh, that's amazing. But living in Perth, that's another world away. So you never really think that you can do that. And it wasn't until Kat and I went to Paris. I think it was around about 2013. We went to Paris and went, oh, hang on a tick, there's a Disneyland park here. And so we went to Disneyland Paris, went, this rocks, this is awesome. And then I came back and I started listening to Disney podcasts like yourselves and the Dis Dream Girls, and then got on to the Avengers, and then through that, just listening to the you guys talk about the other parks, I was like, man, we've got to go there and check those places out. So the next port of call was Disneyland in Anaheim, and that was amazing. It was absolutely brilliant. And then in 2014, 2015, over Christmas, New Year, we wanted to go somewhere, and we were originally looking at Orlando, which was very expensive around Christmas. And then we looked at Hong Kong, but the prices for Hong Kong and Paris were about the same. So I thought, oh, we'll go to Paris. And so we spent New Year's Eve in Disneyland Paris, which is absolutely fantastic. And from there, we were like, okay, we got to go to Walt Disney World. We've got to do the big one. And so in February last year, we went to Orlando and we did Universal Studios. We spent a weekend at Universal Studios. And it was actually a weekend over a marathon weekend at Walt Disney World. So Universal Studios, even though it was a weekend, was quite empty, which was fantastic. And then after that, we went to Walt Disney World. We spent a week at Walt Disney World. And for some reason, once the marathon weekend was over, everyone just left. So Walt Disney World for that week was reasonably quiet as well. So we had just the best of both worlds, quiet Universal, quiet Walt Disney World, and it was just absolutely amazing. So after that, we decided that we had to get into the Asian parks, and we booked our trip for Hong Kong and Shanghai, and then made our way over there at Christmas this year, and just absolutely amazing parks. Just I couldn't believe just how good they were.
I think later on this year we're going to have you on once you've done Tokyo, and we'll have a 4-hour show where you can just go from top to bottom, the pros and cons of each park, because you've done them all by that point, so it'll be fine.
Do you know, I was watching Adam the Woo earlier, and he had a coast-to-coast annual pass that he was showing off.
Oh, yeah.
Like a black and gold thing. I've never seen one before, but it's for, obviously, California and Florida. But I wondered if they ever did an annual pass for every park.
Yeah, Kat, my wife Kat was saying it would be awesome if they did a worldwide annual pass, and it would be great. But there's the only issue I can see with that is that obviously the American parks are 100% owned by Disney. Paris is partially owned by Disney, but partially owned by shareholders. Japan is completely owned by Japan. And I think Shanghai is predominantly owned by the Chinese. So I think there might be some issues with ownership as far as that kind of thing goes.
Yeah.
Still a great idea, though.
It is. It's fantastic. I wish they could pull that one off.
Hey, Dis After Dark listeners. I want to invite you all to join us over on ScareZone, Halloween Horror Nights podcast. ScareZone is a news, interview, history, and commentary podcast all about Universal's premier Halloween event. It's hosted by fans and experts like me, Logan Seculo, former WWE superstar Scotty 2 Hottie, and Dis After Dark's own Chris Ripley. Subscribe however you get podcasts and head over to ScareZone.com for more information. We here at the show are proud supporters of Dis After Dark. And remember, keep your eyes closed and your ears open on ScareZone.
So, I don't know where to start, but I mean, I'm sure most people are aware of. Well, we had our very own Paul Boniface, may he rest in peace, go to Hong Kong. He's not dead. That was a joke. Please don't write in.
I thought he was in the toilet still. Is he not in the toilet still?
Well, we haven't checked the cubicle, but he definitely was seen going in there. We just tiptoed out. We thought it was probably best to leave him in there for another 12 months. But yes, I mean, he went to Hong Kong when it first opened, and it has seemed to have expanded quite a bit since he first went, which is good. But you had some good timing, didn't you, with your trip?
We had perfect timing. You couldn't have faulted the timing that we went there. When we got to Hong Kong, they had just the soft opening of the Iron Man experience was going on. And so this is the brand new ride there, the very first Marvel-based Disney ride, and it was great. We got there and they gave us when we were staying at Hong Kong Disneyland, we decided to stay in the club level or the kingdom level, as they call it in Hong Kong. And the reason for that is because usually when we go to other Disney parks, we'll stay in the deluxe resorts. And when we looked at the prices, when we went to Shanghai and Hong Kong, the prices for the club level were comparable to the prices for just a standard room in a deluxe resort in Paris or in the States. So we thought, well, we might as well do it because you get with the club level, they have free food and booze at night. They have free breakfast in the morning. Wow. So we thought it would just take away those kind of extra things that you got to think about when you're in the parks. And the food in both places was just outstanding, just amazing food. And so we did that, and they gave us additional fast passes as well as ones we could get in the park. So we got like 3 fast passes for the Iron Man experience. We got a fast pass for Mystic Manor and for Space Mountain. Weirdly enough, didn't need to use any of them because the parks were very quiet. And when we went into the park on the first day that we were in Hong Kong, we went, okay, we'll go straight to the Iron Man experience. It's going to be, I'm sure it'll be hammered. It'll be like 2-hour, 3-hour waits. We'll go straight there. So we got to the park, and they open at 10:30 in the morning at Hong Kong Disneyland. So it's a really late opening. We got there and got to the line for Iron Man, but it was basically a walk-on. You just went straight through the line, jumped on the ride, and then we went, that was amazing. And then we went, should we do it again? Got off the ride and walked straight back on again. I don't think people were aware it was actually there. I don't know why, but just no one seemed to realize that there was this awesome new ride. And so, yeah, we must have ridden it about 5 or 6 times over the course of the 3 days that we were there. And it's absolutely brilliant. Do you guys know much about the Iron Man Experience ride?
No, I purposely avoided finding out too much because I knew you'd gone on it, so I was going to ask you. But it's quite interesting, Chris, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just before the show, P-Dub's Paul Washington himself messaged and said he started to lose his voice just before the show started, so he was going to drop out. And I think it's coincidence that he's done that when we've got somebody on that's going to talk about the Iron Man experience. Knowing how jealous he was. So what I do know is that it's some kind of simulator attraction. Is that right?
It's basically because when we were going to Shanghai, I did a lot of research. Shanghai and Hong Kong, I was doing a lot of research, and I was going, wow, it's really weird that there's no Star Tours ride here. You know, it's kind of like one of the most popular rides in all the other parks. I wonder why they don't have it here. And when we got to Hong Kong and went to the Iron Man experience, I went, now I see why they don't have it here. Because the Iron Man experience is the same ride system as Star Tours.
Right.
So when you we went through the line, and as you walk out to loading area, you went, oh, okay, this is the same loading way as Star Tours, and so you get into the ride. But I mean, obviously the whole thing is themed towards Iron Man. So before you get to the ride itself, you go through a long queue because they have built it so knowing that there will be a lot of demand for it once people actually know it's there. And you go through this long queue, and they've got lots of props from the film, and you've got a bit of history of Stark Industries and Tony Stark, and then you get to a point where they're talking about some of the new innovations, including self-healing glass. Which is really cool. And they've got this demo set up where you've got a pane of glass, and then the glass gets shattered and then reforms itself. It's a very, very cool little trick that they do. Then you go through and they introduce you to the fact that Tony Stark has built a new Stark Tower, which is powered by an arc reactor in Kowloon, which is across the bay from Hong Kong, and also that Stark Industries is having the new Stark Expo in Hong Kong Disneyland. And they show you these different vehicles that Tony's built for different purposes, like demolition and building and mining and those kind of things. And then it shows you the vehicle that you're going to ride in during the Iron Man experience. And the car that you're in is basically a Iron Man suit that will fit you and 40 of your closest friends. And so after that, you go and stand in the queue for the experience, and you go through the obligatory safety video that you've got to watch before going on to any ride. And watch the safety video closely, because you may see a cameo in there of a certain man that is quite famous for popping up in Marvel things. After that, you board the ride, and the ride is very similar in set out to Star Tours, but obviously it's themed to Iron Man, so a lot of red and gold, that kind of thing. And it's a 3D attraction, so you've got your 3D glasses on. And did you want me to go on to spoilers or not with regards to the actual storyline?
I mean, I personally, I'm happy to, because I'm not going to be going on it anytime soon. So if you spoil away, and if you don't like to have this spoiled, then just skip the next 2 minutes or so of Lewis talking.
All right, so once you board the ride, the screen goes up, and then you're in loading in a bay, ready to depart, and things don't go quite to plan, and you end up destroying the door, and then you take off and you fly out over Disneyland, so you get to see Disneyland on your way out of the park. And then you fly through over the bay, and you see Kowloon and you see Hong Kong, and then you go up to S.T.R.I.K.E towers, and then you get attacked by Hydra, and Hydra has come to steal the Ark reactor. And at this point, Jarvis calls Tony. Now, in Hong Kong, there's 3 official languages. There's Mandarin, there's Cantonese, and there's English. So they're trying to service all the different languages. And in this, you've got Jarvis. And I think Jarvis is speaking Cantonese. And he calls Tony Stark, who's at the Stark Expo doing a meet and greet with some fans. And they... when Tony realizes that Kowloon's being invaded, he takes off and joins you at S.T.R.I.K.E Towers. And then together, you fight Hydra. And it's freaking amazing. The 3D is really great. The actual story is just fun. The whole thing is amazing fun. I'm not sure if they got Robert Downey Jr. to voice it, or if it was just a really, really good voice actor, but it was just spot on Iron Man. It was absolutely fantastic, and just really funny. But we thought it was going to be like the Star Tours 2. We thought they might have gone down the route of having multiple scenes that they could put together in different order to give you a different ride experience each time. But I think they must have just gone, no, we'll just do the one story now, and then, being a simulator, you can update it down the track like they've done with Star Tours 2. So, it's a great ride, and just we went on it over and over again. I'm looking forward to going back and doing it again in April. And the ride's even better because as well as having the ride there, they've also got a Iron Man meet and greet, and it was one of the best meet and greets I've ever done, because you leave the Iron Man experience and you can go and line up for the meet and greet. They take you through into this security area where they do a security screening. And then once a screening is finished, a door opens, you walk through, and you go into this area where there's a lady, with a couple of people from Stark Industries there giving you a demonstration or a talk on some of the products that they've done. Again, I think that was in Cantonese, so we didn't understand that, but you got the gist of it. And then while she's giving the discussion, off to the side there's a door, and the door starts to smoke, and there's this sound like somebody is landing, and then the door opens, and through the smoke, Iron Man walks out and starts to talk to you, and it is Robert Downey Jr. talking to you. It was the most surreal experience I've ever had in a theme park. And then you obviously do your photographs and everything like that with him. So that, to me, was definitely one of the highlights of the trip, was actually getting to meet Iron Man.
Wow. What was the is the film footage? Is it real footage or is it animated?
It's animated. It's animated, but it's great. It's great animation, and it's with a ride like this. You go, okay, this is cool. I've got no issues with it being animated, because it is, it is what it is. There was another ride that we did Soarin' in Shanghai. And in that one, there was a lot of computer-generated imagery, and that pulled me out of it, because that was supposed to be real, but it was actually, a lot of it was fake. Whereas with the Iron Man experience, it's a fake thing anyway, so you couldn't really, if you had real shots of Hong Kong, and then you had Iron Man and your Hydra attacking, I just don't think that would work.
No, I agree. And we've talked about soaring around the world ourselves on here, haven't we? And I mean, the one shot that I've seen which really distracting was the Taj Mahal, which
that looks
like something from the 1980s rather than modern day technology. Just looks really bizarre. And like you say, Soarin' is supposed to be a view around the world, so to kind of go from real to fake doesn't work. But if it's animated the whole way through, then you're kind of there. Well, that whole thing sounds completely awesome. And I'm hoping, Disneyland Paris might get something like the Iron Man experience. That's somewhere they can. And obviously, we've had a few of the Marvel heroes there, but no attractions. But that does sound great. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about, just because Paris is definitely getting this, is Hyperspace Mountain.
Oh my God, Hyperspace Mountain! It's just a brilliant. It's the best roller coaster you've ever been on, because it's Space Mountain is good anyway. It's a fun dark ride. It's got thrills because you don't know what's coming up. But man, as soon as you add Star Destroyers and and TIE fighters into the mix, it's just amazing. It's just such an immersive experience. But the Space Mountain at Hong Kong is a lot slower than Paris. So it's a lot gentler kind of ride, and you get a lot of time to see the screens. So I'm wondering, when they do the overlay in Paris, if they're going to slow the ride down at all, because that ride is balls to the wall fast. So I'm just wondering how you'll see the scenes when you're screaming past them at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's an odd one, that, because for anyone that's not been to Space Mountain in Paris, it's not like any other version of Space Mountain. It's got inversions and is a lot quicker. And you're right. I mean, Chris, did you ever go on Space Mountain before it changed in Paris? Like the original version?
I may have done, but I don't remember it.
Because I've only done the first version. I've not gone. I never went over. It was Mission 2.0 because I had such neck ache after going on Space Mountain that I didn't. And I know it's been improved a bit since then. And they're still doing it with the Star Wars. During the Star Wars overlay, they're doing something else to the vehicles. But that was always something that I had an issue with. There is that. Because it was from the Earth to the Moon at that point, so you got to see the old. Is it George Millet?
Oh yeah,
but that moon from the film, so it looked like that, and you didn't get to see it as well as you'd like to have done. So yeah, I'm hoping that they do, but I'm not entirely sure, Lewis, that they can slow it down too much, just because of the nature of the track. But yeah, time will tell. Chris, Amanda, was there any attractions that you wanted to ask about at Hong Kong?
Haunted Mansion, at Mystic Manor at Hong Kong. Which version of Haunted Mansion is that most similar to?
None of them. Mystic Manor is completely its own thing. It's the story of Mystic Manor is that you've got this old explorer guy who's gone around the world collecting antiquities, and he's got a little mate who's his partner in crime called Albert. And Albert's a little monkey who's really cheeky, and he likes to play with things. And recently they've acquired a music box which has got a gem on the top, and it said that if you touch the gem on the music box, it has the power to animate inanimate objects. And so Albert decided, well, I'm going to have a crack at that. Touches it, and then just everything goes haywire in the house. The ride system is a trackless ride system, similar to the Ratatouille ride in Disneyland Paris and Pooh's Honey Hunt in Tokyo, Japan. And being a trackless ride, you get into your vehicle, and then you go one of two different routes through the Mystic Manor. And the first room you come to, your vehicles come in and they turn towards the front of it, and then you see that scene, and then your vehicles will turn around and move on into the next room for the next scene. It's a very different kind of ride experience to the Haunted Mansions, where you're on a fixed track and everyone's doing exactly the same thing. to the point where actually one of the final scenes of the ride, if you get in the front two carts, then you experience that for a longer time than if you're in the back two carts. So I'd always recommend, if you do Mystic Manor, try to get into the front two carts just to get that longer ride experience. But it's great. It is just an amazing feat of using practical effects, using screens, using lighting effects. I think it's the best use of lighting effects I've ever seen. And by having a character like Albert, it was a great new character, and it was a great new property for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if down the track you actually see a Mystic Manor movie, because it's definitely got the potential there for turning it into a movie, I think.
Awesome. That sounds really cool.
It's amazing. The thing about Hong Kong is that a lot of the rides are similar. Now Hyperspace Mountain, I can't ever see them changing Hyperspace Mountain back to normal Space Mountain. I just don't see why they would do that. They've got a ride there which is like a mine train ride, but it's this one where the story is that you're going through these mines, but there's some bears there that are just doing bear-like things, but every time they do, they change the ride. So initially you start off, and again, spoilers if you don't want to be spoiling this ride, but the ride starts off as a conventional kind of roller coaster, so you're just going forward, and then you reach this point where you're going up an incline, and the rope snaps or the wire snaps, and then the rest of the ride is backwards, and then you get to this point where you think the ride is finished, but because of what the bears are doing, the ride starts again and goes even faster. So it was really like a ride in three stories, and it was just really, really cool. And people say that there's no thrill rides at Hong Kong Disneyland, but seriously, that ride was quite thrilling, and also Space Mountain is pretty full on as well. So I think there's enough thrills there for thrill seekers. Also, they've got a jungle cruise, and the jungle cruise starts off as a normal jungle cruise, but it's got a climax which is different to every other park. It's more of a like if you were to go to Catastrophe Canyon in Disneyland Paris, where when you're on the studio tour, you know how they've got that bit where you go in and it's set up and it's got a oil tanker and it's got the fire going off and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you got a similar kind of finish to the Jungle Cruise in Hong Kong. So it's like a special effects scene at the end of the Jungle Cruise. So it makes it a very different experience to any other Jungle Cruise you've ever been on. It's a really, really nice park. It's like, for my money, Disneyland Paris is the most beautiful park in the world, but I think Hong Kong is the lushest. It's just got so much foliage there. It's just an absolutely amazing park for that. And also in the background of the park, you've got mountains and those kind of things. It's a tiny castle, but when you've got a backdrop of mountains, it just is absolutely amazing.
I mean, just looking at the map, and I think that's the one thing that does stand out is that everything's green.
It is
so much green all around. Because I mean, when you see a map of Paris, you see, trees and that all around the outside of the park, but there's trees everywhere.
Yeah, they've done such a great. This Hong Kong Disneyland. It's a small park, but since it opened, they've added three new areas, which is the Mystic Manor, the Grizzly Gulch, and the Toy Story Land. I imagine when it first opened, it would have been a very quick park to do without those extra elements to it. It's only been open for 10 years, but they've already taken away Autopia. That's gone. That's been replaced by the Iron Man experience in that area. They're going to be doing overlay, so they're updating Buzz Lightyear Laser Blast, and it's going to be turned into an Ant-Man attraction. So they're committed to having. I think Tomorrowland's basically going to become Marvel Land there. It's the experience starts on the train ride to the park, because when the train rocks up to take you to Hong Kong Disneyland, it is a Disney train. The windows are Mickey ears. The things you hold inside the train, they're like Mickey pants, and you're holding onto Mickey ears. They've got statues in there. They've got pictures of Walt, so you know where you're going as soon as you get on that train. And then you go to the transport place, and you can either from there go straight into the park, or you can go to one of the two hotels they've currently got, which is the Disneyland Hotel and the Hollywood Hotel. They're building a third hotel at the moment, which should get opened in 2017. They've got heaps of area to expand, but the one thing you'll notice is there's no downtown Disney area at all in this park. But it didn't really bother us at all. It was it was nice and relaxing. So I think Hong Kong Disneyland, if you want a relaxing Disney time, I'd definitely recommend going there, because it's just such a cruisy place to be. And also Hong Kong itself is fantastic. And I should mention Shanghai as well, because Shanghai being the newest Disney park, is, you'd think that you go there and it would be still finding its feet and look new and shiny. And the weird thing about Shanghai Disneyland is it's only been open for 6 months, but it feels complete. It feels lived in. It doesn't feel like a place that's just been built. And I think that's actually a good thing, that when you go there, it feels like a Disneyland that's always been there. And this park is amazing. The scope of it. It's hard to fathom, because most of these places, they open up and there's some things to do, but like they're usually quite small. Whereas this place, they just went, nah, we're just going to throw everything into it and make this thing the biggest, most amazing place that we can. So we were there for it was 4 days, but I think we actually only spent 3 fully in the parks, because the last day we had to get to the airport rather early. But it's if you're going to Shanghai Disneyland, you've got to get there first thing in the morning, because it is a very, very busy park. I think when we were there, it was kind of Christmas time. It was a bit colder. It was off season, so it wasn't as busy as it can get. But for some reason, Soarin' is the most popular ride there. So in Shanghai, when you line up to go into the park in the morning, the Running of the Bulls just goes directly to Adventure Isle. And people either go directly to Soarin' and start lining up, or they go to the Fast Pass kiosk and get their passes for Soarin'. And the passes for Soarin' run out at 9 or 9:30 in the morning. And then that's it. That's it for the day. And even though it was a quiet time when we went, we did see the lines for Soarin' go up to 2.5 to 3 hours. I wouldn't line up for Soarin' for that long. I think, like, if you think ride experience versus waiting time, that just doesn't work out. Like, if you waited 3 hours for Soarin' and then you rode it, you just go, that's it? That's what I waited 3 hours for? I would be well pissed if that was the case. But we went in there, we fast passed it. And to get our fast pass, we would have been in a line for like 20 to 30 minutes. So we got our fast pass, and then we went and did other things. So we went and did got the Soarin' fast pass. Then we went straight over to Tron, and we walked onto Tron. We walked on there, and then we did it, and then we got off it, and then we did it again. It's like, it doesn't make any sense that people are just like, I've got to go and do Soarin', and then you've got a ride like Tron, which is a million times better, and people just are like, I don't know, I'll do that later. It made no sense at all.
So they've basically got their priorities all wrong. That's essentially what we're saying there.
Exactly. I don't understand it. It's like, and Soarin' is such a slow loader. It's just, It's ridiculous. So I'd never done Soarin' in America. So this was our first time doing it, and I was kind of excited about doing it. And then I was like, that's it. It's even though it's a brand new ride, it looked old and dated. It was bizarre. But But it was good for us because it was like, okay, fine, you guys go do Soarin', we're going to enjoy everything else in the park. So, we jumped on Tron, jumped on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, jumped on Pirates of the Caribbean, and Pirates of the Caribbean alone is worth the money to go to Shanghai Disneyland. This ride, the way that they've reimagined Pirates of the Caribbean is amazing. You go on a boat ride, and a boat ride, generally speaking, is going to go forward, and then you might have a drop, and that's the exciting bit. Oh, a drop! Hey, excellent, that's fantastic. Not with this ride. Your boat will go forward, your boat will go backwards, your boat will go to the side, your boat will submerge under the ocean. This is a completely different boat ride experience than you've ever had before. We rode it again and again and again, and every time you would see something new and something different.
It's quite funny, Pirates of the Caribbean, because a lot of people, it's their favourite attraction. It's been a fan favourite for so long. That and probably Haunted Mansions are the kind of two rides that everyone says is a classic kind of iconic ride. And when they first announced that they were doing a Pirates of the Caribbean ride based on the films, I think a lot of people, myself included, had some reservations about it. Having seen, because obviously not had the chance to be as lucky as yourself and go on it, but seeing the videos of it, I mean, it just looks completely amazing.
It is. It's just, I'm glad that they went down this route instead of just putting in another version of the existing ride. Because the thing I love about having gone to so many Disney parks is seeing the differences in the parks, and even those like small differences within the rides. But this was great, because if you didn't know, you'd just get on this assuming it was just like every other Pirates ride, and then all of a sudden, you're seeing no, this is going to get turned on its head, because the ride starts off with you just going through a restaurant. I think it was called Barbosa's Bounty. So you go through this restaurant, which is a quick service, and it's so similar to Paris and to Anaheim. And then the next thing you see is a bunch of skeletons, a bunch of, and the scenes are reminiscent of the original Pirates of the Caribbean. It's just that everyone is dead. And so that's, as soon as you see that, you go, okay, things have been turned on its head here. And then you see a skeleton, and there's this amazing effect where the skeleton goes from being a skeleton into Captain Jack. And the animatronic is, you would believe it was Johnny Depp standing there talking to you in Mandarin. It was that good. And they've got a couple of other animatronics through the ride as well that are very creepy and awesome. But the actual the ride vehicle itself was just an amazing technical feat. It just being able to have a boat that moves up and down and turns around, and they also use a lot of screens as well to make you feel like at one point that you're getting submerged under the water and you spend time underneath the ocean, which you've never been underwater in a Pirates ride before. Just an amazing ride, and I don't understand why people want to go and spend hours in a line to sit in a seat and watch a screen when they could go and experience something like this. But again, I'm pleased that they don't, because we got to experience it multiple times because of the fact that everyone else was waiting for Soarin'. But yeah, I would say if you're holding off waiting for Shanghai to become a park worth going to, it's already worth going to. You've got the two hotels, Toy Story Hotel and the Disneyland Hotel. Disneyland Hotel is directly across from the park, and there's a big lake in between. So you can either walk to the park, you could take a boat to the park, or you could take a bus to the park. And all three options is about 10 minutes to get to the park. So you've got a lot of different ways of getting there. They've also got the Disney Town, which is like probably more comparable to downtown Disney in Anaheim than Disney Village in Paris, because there's a lot more shops there, a lot more restaurants, and it's directly outside the park. So even though the park is completely dry, if you want to go and have a meal and have alcohol with your meal, you can leave the park, go to Disneytown, and then go back into the park. And they've actually got a re-entry gate where you can exit and re-enter through, which takes you straight into Tomorrowland. So they've looked at it and gone, okay, people like a drink, so we'll do this so that if people want to go to a restaurant and have booze, they can do. The Tomorrowland is the most impressive Tomorrowland I've ever seen. It's with the Tron ride there, it's such an iconic structure, and you've probably only seen it with the blue lights on it. But when it comes to night, after they've shut the ride down, they actually change the lights there. So over the course of the night, the actual light will change inside the building, giving a completely different look. The castle is just out of this world. I mean, it's so big and imposing. It's what you would expect a Disney castle to be. And there's just there's so many rides. There's so many lands. The snacks there, they had caramel popcorn, which every time you smelt it, you seriously felt like you were putting on weight. But it was fantastic. This caramel popcorn was just to die for. Instead of having turkey legs, they had duck legs, which we never got a chance to taste, which was very unfortunate, but we'll get around to that one next time. They had corn dogs as well, and for some reason they put them in bags. So as soon as you buy a corn dog, you got to get it fresh and take it out of the bag straight away, otherwise you'll have a soggy corn dog. But yeah, it was Shanghai Disneyland is it's just an absolutely fantastic park. And how far is, like, for you guys, how far is it to travel to China?
Oh, no idea. How far was it from Perth, out of interest?
I think it was about, to get to China, it took us 7.5 hours to get to Hong Kong, and then it was another 3 hours to China from there.
Oh, okay.
So it was it's a bit of a haul, but that's why we generally do the furthest destination first, and then we can get back to Hong Kong, and then it's only 8 hours back home. So yeah, I'd say China is closer to you guys than the States would be. Is that correct?
Well, you know what? I'm just looking at it now. It's about 10 hours.
I was to say, no.
If we was going to Anaheim, if we was going over to Vegas or California, then that's about 10 hours. So it's actually not too bad. Florida's about 8 and a bit, but yeah, it's about 10 and a half to the east coast of America. So the west coast, sorry. So yeah, so not too bad. I mean, the thing is, like, Lewis knows very well and very kindly brought me a Tron fridge magnet. I was expecting just a photo of you on the ride to come actually to rub it in. I mean, when they announced the Tron coaster being built there, I did almost want to book a flight immediately. Thankfully, I mean, it doesn't look like it's let me down. Like, the videos look stunning. Anyone that I know that's been on it has said how amazing it is. So it's done me proud. And I think, Chris, I don't know if Paul talked about it with you, but he definitely mentioned it to me that rumours of Autopia going in the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, well, there's huge rumours going around of a massive overhaul to Tomorrowland. So
yeah, and I mean the positivity from all camps about the Tron coaster, it does make sense that could go over. So I'd be
well, if you compare the Transformers ride in Orlando, I mean, that is an exact copy of Hollywood, and it's obviously cost them a lot less money just to dust off some drawings that are on the shelf and literally just throw that ride in there, because it took less than a year to put that ride together. So if they've already got a really good concept design, drawings, everything for Tron, it could easily come to Florida.
I've got to admit, I hope they don't do that, because I think having specific rides at specific parks is important for people to want to actually visit them, particularly Americans, because Americans, generally speaking, only go to the American parks. I don't know if you found that when you're there and you're talking to them. Like when we were in Walt Disney World, the amount of people that we would say, so, how often do you come to Walt Disney World? And go, oh, yeah, every year, a couple of times a year. And we go, oh, cool. Have you ever been to Disneyland? No. I was like,
Yeah.
Sorry, what? It's like you live in the country. It's not that far to travel, but they've just, that's what they do. They go to, Walt Disney World. That's their vacation every year. But I think having, specific things to specific parks means that, people can travel there and have a unique experience in that park. So I don't think, because Tron is basically the replacement for Space Mountain, and in Orlando they've already got Space Mountain, so I can't really see them putting in another ride which is a similar kind of experience there. But I think you are right about them ripping out Autopia. I think they're actually doing that around the world, because Hong Kong's lost their Autopia. Japan, they've just shut theirs down. They're replacing theirs. So I don't think I think Autopia's going to go in the other parks at some point in time, because it's a very dull ride, and particularly in Anaheim and in Orlando, it's a very stinky ride as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see that gone in the next decade or so.
You see, like the Jaws ride that was at Universal in Florida, that the main reason it went was it just cost so much money in fuel to run it. So you can imagine, like Autopia, how much fuel they're burning constantly all day long.
They're not making it electric, are they, or anything like
No.
that? But it also takes up a massive footprint, which again was another problem with Jaws.
Again, yeah, another huge footprint.
That was the two problems with Jaws, is that it costs a lot of money to do, and also it costs a lot of money to run. Of course, I think we all agree that we'd rather have Jaws back where it belongs, but it can't.
Controversial.
No, it's not controversial. Everyone loves Jaws.
Yeah, true.
But no, I mean, yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I remember when Paul went to Hong Kong, and he gave us a trip report, and when he went a few months after opening, and he said it was a one-day park at best. It was the Paris studios of Walt Disney Parks, which is almost an oxymoron. But I mean, it was easily done. Whilst now, I think you look at Hong Kong and with what they've put in and what they've expanded it to, it does look a lot better. I mean, all right, the Toy Story Land is an exact copy of the Paris version with a different big character at the front of the entrance. So probably save a bit of money there. But again, for people that don't go to all the parks, then there's something there. And that's the thing. I think you don't want to put, I'd like to see Tron in Florida, but I wouldn't want to see Tron at California as well, and Paris as well, because as you say, it doesn't give you the reason to do it. I think it's good that, a ride's in a couple of the parks in the same way, but there's no harm in having a few things that are unique to parks, because yes, it will drive people to go. Amanda, was there anything at Shanghai that you wanted to talk about that Lewis hasn't?
To be honest, I don't know a lot about the Shanghai park. I've kind of been like you, Nick, with some other things that I didn't really want to look too much into it in case I do decide to go in the future, and I kind of want it to be a surprise.
A Shanghai surprise?
Yeah, a surprise. I did see videos of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, though, but I don't know an awful lot more about the park.
The thing is, though, like, I mean, I'm we share that kind of view, but at the same time, like, me seeing videos of Tron gave me an appetite, and Pirates, like, yes, that looks awesome, but doing the rides is still not the same as watching video back.
That is true.
So, it's not too bad. Well, thank you. I mean, that all sounds brilliant. It sounds like you had an amazing time, and not jealous at all. Read that as extremely jealous. But no, I mean, I think if anyone's been kind of sitting on the fence, I think what you've said about the parks tonight would definitely, make me want to consider doing it. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't think I could drag my kids over that far to go to the park at the moment. I wouldn't take them to America at this age either. But
Leave them at home.
look, I'm not the same as every other podcast host. I like to take my kids with me when I go. Well, not all the time. That is actually true. So maybe I should eat my words. But
Actually, if you've got young kids, I think that Hong Kong Disneyland is probably the best starting park for them, because there's a lot of rides that they can go on there. It's a lot more of a casual experience. I didn't see I saw no parents having meltdowns, no children having meltdowns. It was just, a lot more of a relaxing experience. Than any other Disney park. So Hong Kong Disneyland, I definitely recommend as a good park to go and do those kind of things. Shanghai, just plan to spend quite a few days there because it's an absolutely amazing place. Just and also don't be concerned about language barriers or anything like that, because we thought going to Shanghai there might be a language issue, but most people speak English to some degree. The only thing you got to worry about in Shanghai is the taxis. So I'd always recommend, before taking a taxi anywhere, find out what the cost is before you get into the taxi, and just make sure they take you the quickest route and don't do the dodgy thing of going the long way around to increase the fare and those kind of things. But other than that, the places, Shanghai is like one of the most cleanest cities I've ever been in my life. It was, both places, a massively enjoyable experience. It's good that in the world we've got Disney parks in different places, so you can go and experience different countries but still have that comfortable feeling of being in a place which is familiar to you. Definitely I would encourage people to get out there and see some of these international parks and just experience Disney on a different kind of level. So it's good fun.
You said two really cute things there, Lewis, that I didn't want to pick you up on halfway through. But the first one is a starter park for young kids. My daughter went to Disneyland Paris when she was 3 months old for the first time, so it's unfortunately a bit late for that one. There was no stopping. In fact, both of them went under the age of 2, and also the language barrier, because speaking to 3 English people, we don't have that problem. We just talk a bit louder and a bit slower, and people normally get the drift because we're rude like that. Just wanted to, we're going to wrap up now, but before we go, there was some breaking news today which we have to mention, because they've released the title of the next Star Wars film.
Oh, really?
Dun, dun.
Yeah, the next Star Wars film coming out this December. So it wasn't called Episode 8, but we obviously know it to be Episode 8. Is going to be called Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
What?
Yeah, The Last Jedi. So, which unfortunately immediately I thought of the great 1980s kung fu flick, The Last Dragon. If you haven't seen it, by the way, get yourselves a copy. Cracking stuff. I think it's Barry Gordy behind that one. But yeah, it's The Last Jedi. I'm not sure what to make of it. I think it's a good title, but I don't know. It seems a little soft to me. I expect a bit more oomph.
It doesn't seem to be a bit contradictory. Like the last film was The Force Awakens, and this one's The Last Jedi. It's kind of like the first film was going, the Force is coming back, and this one's going, now the Force is going away. That's very weird.
Unless this film is all about Luke Skywalker impregnating as many people as possible. I don't know. I mean, we know it's too early to tell. I'm sure that's not the route they're going to be going down, but yeah, some exciting news just before I went on air. Lewis, thank you very much for joining us. You do have your own show, don't you? Not in a podcast format, unfortunately.
Not a podcast. I've got a film review show called Funky Films, which is here in Perth every Thursday night between 6 and 7. And we've got a Facebook page as well. So if you want, you can like us on Facebook. And I generally will put reshare a lot of movie information and things like that on the Facebook page. But yeah, it's hopefully we'll have a podcast at some point in time. One of my new co-hosts is a director, and he's got some technical skills. So I'm hoping we can take the radio show and also turn it into a podcast. So I'll keep you updated on that.
Jesus, Lewis. I mean, you're talking about directors and technical people. Have you heard who does this podcast? There's barely any technical skills here at all, and we managed to do one.
We have an empty yogurt pot and sticky back plastic.
Do you know what? It took me until I was in my late 20s to realise that sticky back plastic is sellotape.
Other sticky back plastics are available. Well, they're not, because there is only just sellotape, but you know.
Other brands are definitely available. But, well, on that bombshell, thank you very much for joining us. Lewis, thank you very much, who got up at 5:15 this morning, his local time, to do this stupid little show. So thank you.
It's going to be like, what, 42 today? 38?
Oh, no. Where we're here in Perth, it's actually quite clement weather at the moment. It's we've not even gone over 30 for the last week or so. It's really weird.
Not over 30.
Have the flies died down a bit?
Yeah, no, I haven't experienced any flies or anything like that. It's very, very peculiar weather we're having. Usually we get like 40-degree days, 3 days in a row. It's just, the heat's just horrible. But no, this year's lovely. Absolutely fantastic.
I think we hit a high of about 4 degrees today. It was absolutely freezing. It was like Jack the Ripper time. Incredibly thick fog. In fact,
poisonous, isn't it, as well?
Chris put a very good video of you getting lost in the mist.
I did, and then someone screen captured the video and sent it to me, like they had done something to it where you can increase the resolution. And it appears to be, I think it was a fence I was walking near, but the way the guy had done it, it looked like it was like loads of those little what are them things, Jabba things from Star Wars, the little things with the red eyes. Yeah, it looked like a load of them on the horizon.
Can you imagine if you got a naked Craig in that mist yesterday?
Oh.
Would have had Gorillas of the Mist, I think. and on that note, it's all right, Craig won't hear this in time, so it's fine. He won't make me edit it out. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in a few weeks. And Lewis, we'd love to have you back on once you visit Tokyo.
Definitely. Happy to come back.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And we'll see you soon. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. If you would like to support Dis After Dark and the other After Dark Network podcasts, please visit our website at www.patreon.com/Dis After Dark. That's patreon.com/Dis After Dark. Thank you. This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network. Right, and so for our other sponsor of the show, we have Wendy Prater at Magical Journeys Travel.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
The very beautiful looking Wendy Prater. Is she on your to-do list? Like if you meet her in real life, you're allowed to?
She's when you open the wallet.
Yeah.
She's the picture in my wallet.
I get you. But other than our lust for Wendy, her and her Magical Journeys are there to help you plan your next Disney vacation. So whether that's a Disney cruise or a trip to Disney World, Wendy can help you by getting your reservations at midnight, getting those all-important Be Our Guest dining reservations or meet and greets with Anna and Elsa. And I think if you quote this podcast, Craig, get a bit of a discount on your deposit, don't you?
Yeah, $25 off, yeah.
There you go. So, next time you want to book a holiday, give Wendy at Magical Journey Travels a little tinkle at wpmagicjourneys.com or on Twitter at wpmagicjourneys.
God bless Wendy and all that sailing it.